Good afternoon, Mansi, and thank you so much for joining us today.
Thanks, Sumit. It's a
I know
pleasure.
that's nice. We've had multiple interactions in the past as well, which was more on the transaction, how, why certain things which were not happening, how to streamline the certain stuff. But I think today we like to take a much broader, aspect of apprenticeship. That how you got started, how have you been implementing, and what's have been the outcome of you doing apprenticeship for such a long time. So please help us understand what prompted Vikas Group to get started with apprenticeship. What was the reason or the genesis behind taking apprenticeships?
So basically, Sumit, to be very open and honest with you, we've always had diploma engineers on our shop floor as, on training period for like a couple of years before we think of what better growth we can give to them. When we started formally on this apprenticeship scheme, we thought that it would be just strengthening our intention of giving an opportunity for the youngsters right out of college to get an industry exposure, because that's our whole intent behind doing an apprenticeship program. In the long run, what we really realized, as we went through the whole thing, we had our own share of learnings. But at the same time, we realized that with this kind of intake that we take straight out of college as apprentices, and then we grow them in the organization, the understanding that they have of the culture of the organization, of the workplace, and the kind of contribution they are able to make in the long run is far better than hiring lateral recruits in the junior management positions. So with that intent, we started, and over I think almost about 5 years, we've deeply taken roots in this particular area.
Oh, fantastic. It's been 5 long years you've been into apprenticeships.
Yes, we've been into.
Fantastic, fantastic. So what are the job roles that you hire these apprentices for?
We mainly hire them on the shop floor as as trainees. We call them apprentice trainees, and they are working with their own hands on the machine, and of course, as direct manpower. So they are working like generating the product itself. So and at the same time, we do a parallel grooming of these people into supervisory positions. So it's a hands-on exposure to the work on the shop floor. We call it the gemba in Japanese terms.
Okay.
And so that's how it is, like giving them complete exposure of the shop floor so that they're better prepared to handle it when they get to do supervisory roles.
Good. Would you want to elaborate further on how are you going about executing it? From day one to maybe the last day. What is the model that you're using? Basically, that we just want to understand your entire execution process of apprenticeships.
Okay. So the way we handle it is straight out of college. So we do the campus recruitments, and that is again a very structured process. We have our web-based portal where we do the registration of the people, and then they take the online test. Then there are interviews which are conducted for Pan India level. Once they clear that level of screening, uh, after the technical as well as behavioral interviews are done, we onboard them into our system as apprentices. Now, once they are onboarded, we have a complete structured training program for 10 days, which is taking them through various modules on production, product, quality, know your company, maintenance, safety, etc. So we call it a dojo center training. That is, that's the kind of rigorous program that they undergo. After which they are put on the shop floor under supervision, and they work on the shop floor, learning the tricks of the trade in the real terms. So before they leave the dojo center, which is like a part of the practical training the theoretical training that they undergo, they are asked to undergo a kind of a test is done just to see how much they have assimilated, in terms of just the theoretical knowledge. But past this, they go through the practical part of the training, which is again for a defined time period, ranging from 14 days generally, I mean 14 to 21 days, depending on the size of operations that they are exposed to. Once that kind of a practical exposure is done, they are again brought back to the dojo, and they are, their supervisor also gives a kind of a feedback on how they have been doing on the shop floor within this period of while working under supervision. Once everything goes well, then they are finally deployed for further work. I mean, their training, which is for a period of roughly almost about 2 years. But there is no sacrosanct that yes, they have to be on the shop floor training for 2 years. If a person is found to be extremely good, at the end of 1.5 years also, we are able to absorb them into the company as supervisory roles, and then they grow with the organization. So that's how their period of apprenticeship, which we normally term it as 1 year plus 1 year kind of a training program. Sometimes we even cut it short so that we take in promising talent even earlier than the stipulated time period. But otherwise, I think there's a constant dialogue which keeps happening with the supervisor and the HR spock, so that we understand where each person is in terms of performance. Besides, throughout this period of 1 year, a lot of programs are conducted for these trainees, so that they can, keep enhancing their theoretical knowledge on the industry standpoint, because what they learn in college is quite different from what industry requires. So in the whole process, we feel that it's a complete holistic learning which the trainees get exposure to. And even so, our intake in terms of number of people that we take in as diploma engineer apprentices is huge. So at the group level, we will almost take all 500 people as apprentices. So sometimes the absorption doesn't happen at the same ratio. Obviously, we don't have that many to go to the
But
position.
what would be absorption ratio?
Um, so absorption would roughly be about 20%, not more than that. I mean, that's the best case scenario. And at the same time, we our intent is to prepare them for to be industry ready. Even if we are not able to absorb them, and somehow we have to part ways for whatever reasons, at least they are industry ready so that they can be suitably employed somewhere else. So our entire cycle and intent and everything is around this philosophy.
Fantastic. You mentioned about the whole onboarding process, or I would say that before even onboarding, the selection process, that how you make people apply to your vacancies through your web or through your portal. How does so it's all automated? This entire stuff is automated, digitized?
Yeah, completely. So we have a platform which was partnered with VBox, and what we do is we send out the invitation letters to the colleges, and once the placement officers respond to it, we send out our position requirements, and with the brief job description and what would be the stipend, etc. Once people get to know of it, they want to apply for it, then they register themselves on the site, and then we get through the whole process.
Very nice, very nice. So you mentioned about the entire model, about you said it's about 2 years time frame is what these people go through typically for an apprenticeship training. What is your evaluation mechanism that you have for apprenticeships? How do you do that? And at what periodicity, and what are the parameters for you to evaluate your apprentices?
Typically, we do it once every year. Like after 1 year, we do one assessment. So initially, there is a quicker assessment. I would say like once they are onboarded, after 14, 15 days itself, we have one round of appraisal or assessment. It's not an appraisal, basically, it's more of a field-based or gut-based assessment that happens with the supervisor. Once that is done, and they are, through their work, their training period, after a year, again, we do a kind of a paper assessment on how the parameters have been in terms of productivity, in terms of discipline, quality. There's something like kaizens or suggestions, how active they've been. So various parameters are, are defined already. And based on that, the supervisor gives feedback. And depending on his feedback and the person's interview, which is again done with HR, the second year of more rigorous and intense program starts.
Okay.
And after that, once again, like I said, supposing after 6 months they are found to be really promising, we're doing a kind of a potential assessment for them, which is again through a psychometric tool and a feedback assessment real time. And basis that, we are selecting them for the next level of role.
Your absorption basically into the
Yeah,
organization. But is it the same level what you do with the people whom you decide not to even pursue further? Because I assume that the process you just mentioned is for the people whom you plan to induct in your organization. But if you were to,
yeah.
but for the regular, for the entire batch, how would you assess them? Again, it's a proper pen and paper model, or and what are the other parameters for you to assess their outcome?
So we do a pen and paper. So parameters are typically their productivity levels and quality consciousness. Safety consciousness is another very important parameter for us. How active he has been in participating in kaizens and suggestion schemes and improvement programs that run from time to time. That's another part. And the fifth part is discipline. So basically his attendance and his punctuality, his commitment to report for duty. These people are generally very young, and therefore that kind of leeway is what they tend to take. So discipline happens to be another very important factor. So almost there are about 5 parameters on which their assessment is done. And so regardless of whether someone is proving to be a high potential talent or not, there are written tests which are conducted at the end of a stipulated period of 1.5 years. So once the written test scores is like a gateway for them to just get into that league of being a high potential person. Only after his written test scores are good, we will consider supervisor feedback. So we're paying a lot of attention to the theoretical grooming as well as the practical exposure.
Holistic approach is what you take to assess.
Yeah.
You mentioned about the productivity, that's one of the parameters for you to gauge the progress. How would you gauge productivity as a standalone parameter? How do you assess the productivity of the person?
There's certain intricacies involved in that, because there are a lot of daily reports which a person on the shop floor has to fill. So supervisor generally has a kind of an assessment on everybody's productivity. I think HR doesn't really scrutinize that part of the rating, and we leave it more to how the production reports. But yes, they have their daily mechanism of punching in their what was the desired output versus what was the actual output. So that forms the basis generally. So there are yellow sheets and there are so many other slips which they get them filled on the shop floor.
I see. Help me understand, Manasi, what are the challenges that you would possibly be facing in doing apprenticeship? Okay, so let me go back. Do you face any challenges in doing apprenticeship?
Yeah, a lot of it. I mean, it really is quite time sucking, I would say. And you need a dedicated person to have a passion to grow people within the system. Unless there is focus, this thing can just fall flat, unless someone is really passionate about the whole idea. And one more agenda which we generally try to achieve through this program is also having a gender diversity. So right from the beginning, we induct the females. So there's a lot of dedicated effort which needs to go into it. The challenge, I would say, is the kind of commitment that we put in as an organization that needs to be reciprocated by the students, which is often missing. So being
which is often
missing, yeah.
Missing, okay.
Yes, because
when you say missing, is it that people are not involved or there are dropouts?
They're dropouts. Yeah.
And what would be the percentage of dropout of your apprentices? What percentage would that be?
That's huge. would be to the tune of almost, I would say 40 to 45% dropouts.
That's huge. That's huge.
That's huge. That's huge. So that's why, I mean, we've been talking to the institutes as well that this kind of seriousness has to be inculcated right from their study period. Otherwise, that seriousness, that that kind of a passion that yes, I need to make a career in that, in my field of diploma or whatever. I mean, mechanical, electrical, is often missing. And being in that tender age, I think people tend to just lose that focus very easily. Uh, uh, so this dropout is primarily because of that.
So you say because the people are not clear, they don't want to dirty their, and that's the reason possibly you say
Yes,
that.
yes, yeah, it's possible because of that.
What would be your recommendation, or what are the initiatives that you or your organization would have taken to ensure that this dropout gets minimized or reduced completely?
I think, Sumit, to be very honest with you, since our core business is about manufacturing, okay, so our core intent is to ensure that we are able to give the right product to our customers, and therefore, apprenticeship doesn't happen to be one of our big focus areas in the sense that it's not that it is the only way of getting manpower into the system, right? So, I definitely feel this kind of dropout can be avoided if industry and academia partner that intensely,
Okay.
so that that part of the thing can be taken care. And at the same time, if there's any feedback which the academia wants to give to industry as to how we can improve, and maybe in terms of our presence even during pre-campus times, or how do we generate the interest in the person on the kind of product that we're making, all that can be done. I mean, but then that element of push, I would say, or pull, has to be intensified so that there's equal pressure from both the sides, and then both the parties work with the same kind of focus.
Absolutely makes sense. Absolutely. I think a very valid point that you touched upon is that the academy and the industry really has to, work together towards, resolving this particular issue.
So right now, I think their focus is like academia is focused on academics and
Yeah.
making sure that people join the institute, and we are focused on making sure that we don't miss our dispatches on time. So that's
No,
how.
of course. So in fact, now the UGC has also come up with a new guideline for degree apprenticeship, which kind of combines the both, that how the academy and industry will have to participate together to do those degree apprenticeships. So let's hope so that kind of solves this particular problem. Which you
Yeah, yeah.
mentioned about that 20% of your apprentices you do absorb them.
Mhm.
Apprenticeship, would it be prudent for me to say that apprenticeship is now part of your hiring strategy?
Yes, it is. In fact, we're making it even stronger with this year and the next. Our focus is on developing better, training modules which are function specific, and check the interest of the person beforehand, and try to groom him into those job roles. Let's say someone specifically wants to get into quality, someone wants to get into maintenance. So create those kind of training modules so that we groom them within that period and help them get the right fit basis their
Okay.
interest.
So there's an interest match making that happens here.
Yes,
Depending
yes,
on the person interest area is how you groom that person in that particular area.
yeah, yeah.
Fantastic. But largely, is it concentrated only in the blue collar or the production level, or are you also seeing some of the non-production roles also where the talent can be bred through apprenticeships?
I think we are open to that, but we haven't come across anyone in the other functional areas who want to get in as apprentices. The point when I'm coming from is straight away. Let's say we want to hire diploma freshers. So diploma freshers we can't take into any of the other areas straight away. I mean, they just don't have a flavor of the product. So let's say we want to talk about a new product development, we can't get them into that. So obviously the only channel left for us is manufacturing, which is the shop floor. But we're not close to the idea. I mean, if you talk of the MBA graduates, let's say, or the GETs, we take them in different functional roles directly as well. But those we don't call them apprentices as such. I mean, we take them as trainees.
Is it because those roles, and with that qualification, do you think that the word apprenticeship could be little harmful, and it's not
Yes.
considered to be white collarish or that add value to their careers?
Yeah. Traditionally, I think everyone understands apprentices very close to the associates on the shop floor, and so the MBA would definitely not want to be called that. Even if he is ready to be called an intern, which is, of course, almost the same thing, but
Same thing, true.
but
Sure. So I think we have a long way to go to change the mindset of our youth
yes,
that apprenticeship can actually catapult their careers.
yes, true.
Mansi, you mentioned you've been in doing apprenticeship for last 5 years, which is a fairly long time, considering that just about 20, 22, 20, 23 or thousand organizations that participate in apprenticeship in our country. And with the volumes that you spoke about and the duration, I think you've done a commendable job in the for skilling the youth of our country. If I were to understand from you as an organization, if I were to understand what are the benefits, and if I were to further bifurcate them, then what are the quantitative and qualitative benefits you've had? How would you like to elaborate on at least three of them from each of the category, the qualitative and quantitative benefits?
Uh, First I'll talk of the qualitative benefits. So the qualitative benefits by bringing in apprentices, I think the first thing which we have been able to get is the kind of a intellectual brain into the manufacturing process, because we've put down a minimum threshold of the kind of qualification. So we're only hiring diploma freshers. So that kind of a minimum threshold in terms of intellectual strengths that we build into the system. In other aspects of the qualitative output, again, would be the kind of internal growth we are able to generate. So that's another very big advantage that we have, because we have homegrown talent by this entire process, and that adds to people who are attuned to our culture, our working style, our norms, everything, and becomes far more easier to manage discipline and output both. So those are, I would say, the two primary qualitative outputs. And also as an qualitative thing, I mean, I don't want to put skilling as a quantitative output per se, and therefore that would mean the third point on the qualitative aspect, because skilling, we feel that we have been doing a decent job in terms of skilling, but I'm sure there are plenty of other organizations who are doing far more, and we are in our pursuit for even better levels of skilling. Um, in terms of quantitative output, I would say the first thing is the cost advantage that we have. I mean, I don't want to put it as a cost per se, but yes, in terms of ROI on the business, for the business as part, in terms of uh, cost of manpower, as so that's been quite helpful. To a large extent, we've been able to manage production at a good, I think, per person or per product cost. And the other quantitative part would definitely mean, because of the kind of people we'll have on the shop floor by this, the diploma holders, our quality defects, etc., are not that high. I mean, they're far better as compared to our earlier situation, when our reliance on contractual manpower used to be very high. So there, that kind of a quality bridge we are able to cover. The third aspect, I think, would again be on in terms of quantitative. I think these are the primary two things, and of course, qualitative. There are
So
far many.
I'll give you, some example. Like when we've had this conversation with other employees, they say that the cost of hiring or cost of breeding talent or cost of hiring talent actually reduces. If you
Yeah.
to kind of hire it externally versus internally, you realize that the cost of internal breeding of talent is far much cost effective. So what's your
Yeah.
opinion?
Yeah, certainly. Because imagine if we have to hire a supervisor from outside, obviously, there's a delta, competitive cost which you have to pay to the person, and at the same time, there's consultancy fees, etc., which are involved. Whereas here, when we are able to grow talent from within, the hiring cost also is significantly
Do you,
effective.
do you also see that these apprentices who finally become your employee, do they tend to stay with you longer versus the people whom you hire laterally from outside, kind of a thing?
Mm, there, I would probably put it at 50%. I mean, I wouldn't say that all of them stay on with us, but because it also depends on how much aspiration the other person has and how much of growth we are able to give to him within the organization. Uh, but yeah, in cases where who are promising talent, we are able to provide that kind of an opportunity, and rest we are okay to lose.
So, but otherwise, would you be in agreement to say that apprentices who have, or the employees who've come through apprenticeship model, they tend to stay longer as compared to the other hires that you do directly from outside? Would
Yeah,
you agree?
to a large extent, yes, because I mean they know the working style and they're able to contribute much faster. So that helps them get the due recognition in shorter time frames and therefore grow easily. So we'll have examples of people who've joined us as a trainee and risen to a CEO level as well.
Oh,
So
wow.
so that kind of a growth, but it all depends. It could be one in a thousand cases, but then we have such cases and stories to
Okay.
showcase. So it all depends on the person, but yes, relatively I think the person who comes from outside, the challenge is getting adjusted with the culture. That is the biggest,
Mhm.
and whereas we have this advantage in case of homegrown talent. So I do agree that to a large extent it helps in retention as well.
Okay. So now let's talk about a little bit more on the productivity part. If you were to compare the productivity of the people who of your employees who've gone through the apprenticeship versus the people whom you are externally, are they at the same productivity level, or do you find that your apprentices who are now your employees are better productive as compared to those external hires?
Much better, I would
Much
say,
better.
much better. Yeah.
Mhm.
Because see, what happens is, again, there's a minimum education criteria which is there. In terms of external hires, you can have varied qualification kind of people who've got exposed to different kind of industry, and so they could have learned some traits of other industries as well, which we are not encouraging. So those kind of mindsets are also important to screen out, which unfortunately we are unable to in many situations. So if we compare it, external hires versus apprentice, they're far more better in terms of output, in terms of understanding, in terms of their professional approach. The only thing which is missing, which I already mentioned, was their intent and continuity.
Mm,
So,
sure. So, do you think your apprenticeships have paid off over so many years for your organization?
yes, it has been a successful model for us, and I think it's paid off very well. For the last so many years, we've been able to maintain our contribution margin. So that's only because we've been able to stabilize that kind of a cost competitive model.
Mm.
At the same time, our big intent is to contribute to the Skilling India program, and therefore, we feel that we've been doing every year, we've been taking baby steps in the same direction. So that gives us an inner feeling of satisfaction.
Fantastic. Any specific episode that you would like to share with us of you dealing with an apprentice or something very exceptional stuff that has happened or done by an apprentice in your organization?
So there will be many such examples, I think, Sumit, because they sometimes do a great job in recognizing or what do I say? I mean, holding before the defective product flows out, there's a gate, which sort of checkpoints on the quality parameters. So they often such cases where there is a part mixing which they've been able to catch, and or there is some kind of a defect due to our product is very sensitive in many aspects, so they're able to screen out those. So there'll be so many examples. I think one of I'm not able to recall as such.
Okay, good. Any recommendation would you like to make for your to your industry peers on apprenticeship?
My recommendation would be that we should definitely, as industry, it is our moral obligation to promote apprenticeship programs, which and government is really having an eye for it, making it far more lucrative with every year. There are more, I would say, far more efforts which have been seen over the last few years into this program as compared to what it used to be many years back. So a lot of efforts are being put in by the government, and now it is industry's responsibility to embrace those initiatives. And of course, look at the benefits of the program in a holistic manner. So you're just not focused on our own productivity, our own quality, or our own profit margins. But as industry, we are responsible to make sure that our youth is gainfully employed. Our youth gets an opportunity to start their career and then make digressions wherever they feel is good for themselves. So, in that aspect, I feel industry leaders have to come forward and embrace this scheme much more. Once this happens, I think it will really help to channelize the youngsters and give them the right starting point in their careers, which is much needed.
Yes, I think something which the youth definitely need is an opening balance of experience, which they get through apprenticeship and makes them more employable in the industry.
Yes.
Thank you so much, Mansi, for sharing your experiences, your thoughts and opinion on apprenticeship. I think it'll go a long way, for people to understand, the apprenticeship and the efficacy of apprenticeship, actually. Thank you so much, Mansi.
Thank you, Sumit. Thank you for giving me this opportunity.
Yeah,
Thank you.
thank you.